At the beginning of the new millennium, the world celebrated. After all the events, both good and bad since 2010, everyone was waiting, hopeful for what felt like a new era. And then, tragedy struck.
England has the highest level of excess mortality in Europe, and the COVID-19 deaths since March, again for the whole of the UK, we're talking about around 45,000.
Kung flu, I can name 19 different versions of names.
By staying at home, we can protect our NHS and save lives.
Dominic Cummings at 8:45 this morning. He's determined not to resign for leaving his London home when he and his wife had coronavirus symptoms, but he can't be confident he won't.
And I've concluded that in travelling to find the right kind of childcare, at the moment when both he and his wife were about to be incapacitated by coronavirus, and when he had no alternative, I think he followed the instincts of every father and every parent. And I do not mark him down for that.
A virus discovered in the last months of 2019 made its way from China across the world, and things were changed forever. Before January 2020 ended, cases were discovered in the United Kingdom, and only days into February, we began to see deaths.
Prime Minister warned that the NHS could be overwhelmed if no action was taken.
By the end of March, a lockdown was called. Just 2 weeks to slow the spread.
Intensive care units were dealing almost exclusively with COVID patients.
Thousands marched through downtown Montreal yesterday to protest the province's mandatory mask rules.
How does the average British citizen feel about the pandemic of 2020?
Hello, my name is Sheila Malone. I'm age 60 and my job, I'm a nursery nurse.
My name is Paul Hughes. I'm 48 years old. I'm a foreman for a removals company. I'm also a martial arts instructor.
My name is Sarah Malone. I'm 39 years old and I am a move-on coordinator for homeless services.
My name is Angela Roberts and I'm 50 years old and I have two jobs. My first job is an infant teacher. And my second job is that I design and make pet products for small pets.
So first lockdown, obviously nobody really knew what to expect from it. So it was quite worrying in a way for everybody, not knowing how long it would last for. Everybody was worried about whether or not they were going to contract the coronavirus.
Our removals company was shut down completely and I was furloughed for quite a few months. Also, my martial arts business was also shut down completely.
The first lockdown, I worked from home as a teacher. I did lots of paperwork and I quite enjoyed it really, apart from the fact that I missed my friends at work. I quite like being at home, quite a hermit, so that was fine. Quite enjoyed having my children at home, but luckily for me, my husband retired just before lockdown, so he was able to sort of organise the homeschooling. So for me, it wasn't too bad.
I think that the first lockdown was kind of expected by the time it came around, maybe a little bit late. In terms of how it was for me, it was different in that my working hours changed. So I worked longer hours. I moved to 12-hour shifts from 7.5-hour shifts and some more days working from home. In terms of how it actually affected my work, before I was doing a lot of face-to-face work with people, trying to process people very quickly and support them into housing. Obviously, the number of people that we had coming into the building changed because we couldn't take as many in because of the pandemic. But also a lot of people that we wouldn't normally see were coming into our service and being processed because they couldn't be left on the streets, which they might have been in other circumstances.
I felt that the first lockdown was very stressful for us. My husband's work had to close down and we didn't know when it was going to open up. and we had Brexit coming at the same time, so it was very stressful all round, just because of lack of clarity on the situation.
We had to wear paper masks and sanitize our hands. When we went into the customer's house, only the foreman went in and spoke to the customer, did a walk around the house, and then once the customer had left the house, then the crew was allowed to go in.
Before the children came back to us a couple of weeks back, obviously we locked down sort of just after Christmas, and again it was key workers. I did not return to school straight after Christmas because I had contracted COVID, and so had my husband. And quite a lot out of the team of 8 adults in a nursery, 4 of us contracted COVID, and 3 of us gave it to our partners and our families.
So halfway through the pandemic, I changed jobs and I moved from a 28-bed hostel in central London to a new 9-bed project in Hounslow. That wasn't as a direct result of the pandemic, however, it still happened, and that changed my job considerably anyway. I had to travel longer and further, which was quite scary at times, just due to the number of people that were still out and about and were still travelling. And rush hour was still quite hectic. Also, again, the ability to do work face to face. We would often try and bring activities in the service, things for people to do, trying to get them job ready, trying to get them ready for move on. We had to look at how we could work with people in a socially distanced and safe manner.
So my online business has gone completely crazy. Since the first lockdown, it just got really busy and it's carried on. So it's a year later and I have lots and lots of sales because I think people can't really get to the shops. They're wanting something a little bit indulgent, and the products that I sell are sort of indulgent, so they're little bandanas, couches, tunnels.
The job was, the yard was half open and half shut, but still very stressful. Lots of people out on furlough, and a 20% reduction in wages for management.
Yes, my job is considered an essential service, just because the people that I'm working with need 24-hour support, and people across a lot of our services need higher support levels, so it's somewhere between care work and frontline work. Quite often people need medical support. They might be reluctant to go to things like GPs and hospitals. They quite often need somebody to listen to them as well, just somebody that they can talk to in confidence. I would certainly consider it essential work as well, yes.
My job as a removals worker is considered essential, and I'm not 100% sure. It could easily have been shut down and furloughed for the whole time. So is it really necessary for people to move during a pandemic? Difficult to say.
Yes, I work in a school. It's the nursery class in a school, but it is nonetheless a school, so it's an educational establishment. And so yes, it's the job is essential. Obviously, you know, schools are always going to be needed.
The lockdown's been interesting. I think at first I was probably running on a lot of adrenaline, knowing that there was so many things that we had to change and the way that we had to go about working. There was lots of information coming in, new information coming in on a daily basis. After a while it became quite tiring, especially with the 12-hour shifts. Working from home was certainly interesting as well. It's not something that we would tend to have a lot of time doing in my line of work, so that's all been a big learning experience as well. But I would say mostly at this stage I would call it tiring, and it will be quite nice to try and get back to some sort of normality. we'll see what happens.
The lockdown has been quite stressful for me personally, but it's amazing how you just get on with it like most people do, and just glad that we're all alive and safe, really.
Hasn't been too bad for me because I've been working and that's kept me going.
I think a lot of people are really fed up with having to be in various types of lockdown, missing shops and other essential things, or not necessarily essential things, but things like hairdressers. Personally, I'm missing theatre and going out. I'm missing going to swimming lessons, which I used to go to, which helped me with my arthritis. I've also really missed my family. I've missed seeing my family. They do live nearby. I've seen seen them a bit, but nowhere near as often as I used to. That has been particularly hard for me in both lockdowns, in both first and second lockdown.
In terms of the pandemic, personally, things for me on a daily basis haven't changed because I have been working throughout it. I've seen the effect that it has on people who haven't had the ability to work or have to take extra precautions that they normally wouldn't. And I think that that's affected me in as much that they are friends and they are family. And obviously you worry about people that you care about, and you don't want them to get ill, and you're concerned about what could potentially happen to them if they do get ill.
Yeah, it's affected me a lot, particularly shutting down my martial arts teaching. The meditation and the practice, that really kept me going, and once that stopped completely, I felt quite strange, quite anxious, depressed, I suppose.
How has the whole pandemic been for you personally? Well, I think I've covered some of that just now. Not great, really. I don't think anybody would say they've had a fabulous time. But yes, it's not been great. I managed to get out a bit last summer. I went away for a weekend, and I actually made some use of the Eat Out to Help Out, and things like that. There was one theatre show that I managed to get to go and see with my sister. I had a significant birthday, and I managed to have some celebrations with my friends and family in August. Which was definitely the highlight of last year.
Do you not think things should start reopening unless the scientific advice says that it's okay?
In terms of reopening, I don't feel that it's right that we set deadlines. I feel it's right to set deadlines for reviews, but I don't think that promises should be made. I don't think we're in a position where we can be making promises, and I don't think that anybody should be doing that.
Too soon. It's okay to train in the park with social distancing, but all the businesses opening now, and the pubs and the restaurants, I think it can cause another wave. I think more people need to be vaccinated before they reopen.
I'm very pleased that this time round that the government seems to be taking a bit more of a cautious approach, that they've reopened the schools now, and then they're going to be starting to open up some of the other things, some of the shops and outdoor events for people. So that's definitely being a little bit more cautious. Should it be later? Personally, I think they could have waited to open the schools till after the Easter holidays.
We could do with getting back to normal, because I think we've sort of started to forget what normal feels like. And I kind of really feel sorry for the young people.
Do I plan on getting vaccinated? Yes, I do.
I do plan on getting vaccinated, yes. I've had my first vaccine. I'm waiting for my second one now. And I encourage everybody to do the same. Please go out and get your vaccine. It's very important.
I've been vaccinated.
Yes, I've had my first vaccination. I'm delighted that I've had it. I've had the AstraZeneca vaccination. I was fine afterwards. I felt a little bit rough the next day, but other than that, absolutely fine.
The government should put the country into lockdown much sooner, close the borders much sooner. They shouldn't have reopened businesses until enough people have been vaccinated. The idea of going for herd immunity costs thousands of lives, and I think the government should be taking account for that as an act of criminal negligence.
I feel that they've learnt some lessons from the previous lockdown, but I think also each individual in Britain, I mean, if we all examine ourselves and our behaviours, including myself, I have broken the rules once or twice. And if 80 million people do that, well then that's why the pandemic is getting out of control again, really.
I think with the second lockdown that it wasn't strict enough. It felt very much as though they were giving people a choice in what they should and shouldn't do rather than making it rules, and I feel that that contributed massively to the effects of people not really paying attention.
And I really hope that there's going to be an inquiry into how this was handled, not just by Boris Johnson, but by the whole government and everybody in it, because they've made a holy mess of it. And I'm not just angry about it in political terms, on a personal level I'm really angry, because not only did I get it, and my husband was ill, one of my friends' husbands nearly died. And things have just not been strict enough.
And now, over a year later, we are only just starting to see what may be hope for the end to this pandemic. The year has been harsh. It has been cold. But we are finally starting to see the light at the end of this tunnel. Communities banded together to help each other, with new charity organizations popping up everywhere. Over half the adult population has had their first vaccine jab, with numbers steadily rising and the infection rates returning to low. As more and more restrictions are eased, things return to the way they used to be, but now the new normal may be a more social and caring Britain, where neighbours are neighbourly and friends will stick to plans. Maybe we'll find more compassion and more humanity in this country or the world than ever before.